everybody. Today we're going to be talking about documents. There are lots of documents that Oasis uses for daily use. And so we're going to talk about what each of those are and what capacity that we use them. And I'm going to try as we go to show pictures of the documents so that you can see what I'm talking about as I go. So the first document I want to go over with you is the Oasis of Kingsport Member Information Packet. So this is the packet that is received by the client or member, as we call them, when they first come into the Oasis of Kingsport. So we try to keep the member information sheet where they fill out all their information on the opposite side as the part that gives our mission statement, our vision statement, what we are, what we're not, and so on and so forth. So you'll find in this packet a sheet that says welcome to Oasis of Kingsport, who we are, what we do, what we believe, all of that stuff. And then the next sheet will be general facility rules. We want each client to read over these and to sign off that they have read and understand each of these. In case one of these rules are broken, we can go back and say, hey, remember you signed that you understood these rules and regulations. Also, so on and so forth. So the next page is the confidentiality and release of liability, and also the photograph, audio, and video release form. These are permission forms that we need as we conduct business from day to day with these ladies that covers us. So if we are in a conversation, emergency conversation with them, they come in, they start crying and they're all upset, and they're saying that if I hear something within here, I'm not going to go out and repeat that about my fellow member or about a volunteer or so on and so forth. So it's just basically saying on our part we'll be confidential with information, on their part they will. Now if they go into regular counseling, there are other forms for that, but this is just for day-to-day use, confidentiality and release of liability. The photograph and audio and video is for like when we put stuff on Facebook. We want our clients to know that we are doing that and for them to sign off on it, just in case, say a woman was being abused or was running from something, maybe in witness protection or something like that, and wouldn't want their face on the internet. That's happened before. So that's what this is. And so they will remind us as well, if we got a camera out, hey, you know, I'm not supposed to be on video. They will remind you if they're in that situation, but we also want to have it documented. And of course, the last page is the information sheet where they will put their information. Now, this has been updated to include more information about homelessness for case management purposes. And so, under current living status, it will ask homeless, owned, living with family, other. If they check homeless, then it will say, if you check the above box indicating that you are homeless, please answer the following questions. Where are you currently staying? How long have you been homeless? Are you interested in case management? Yes or no? And in there it says, case management includes collaborative care with agencies, health providers, housing entities, and other organizations to help homeless population gain the care they need to better their situation. By circling yes, you are indicating you wish to receive this help. So that is helping the client to understand what case management is first before they pick yes or no. At which point they do pick yes, then at that point they will be given the next set of paperwork we're going to be going over. But to keep on down the list here on this particular paper, it's going to ask if they're employed, if they receive disability benefits, if they're a student, part-time or full-time, and if they're a veteran, and if they've been discharged. Now that veteran status is very important, and here's why. Number one, it's important for grants. So Oasis can receive grants based upon how many clients we have who are veterans who have been discharged or who have served our country in some capacity. Now, for the homeless program, we deal with the veterans in Johnson City who have a homeless program, and we deal with Chelsea. She's our direct contact for that. And one of the main questions that they ask is, have they been discharged? If they've served just one day of active duty, they get certain benefits. So this is important for us to know, and so that's why we're measuring these things and asking them. So going down, we have, please indicate all that apply to you. So everything that applies to you. So public housing, HUD, or housing choice voucher. We put both of those on there because you apply at the same place at the same time for these things. Now, often clients do not know what they have applied for, and it's important for volunteers to know that. So when we look up on housing, if they know their login and their login information to Kingsport Housing Redevelopment Authority, they can go in and look at where they are on the list, where their status is. If anything is needed, it will let them know. A lot of times, clients don't even know what they have applied for. They think they have applied for scattered sites or managed sites from KHRA, and really all they've applied for is Section 8, or what is now called the Housing Choice Voucher. So this is all very important for us to know so that we can guide the client in the right way. So that's why the paperwork is important. Do they receive SNAP, which is food stamps, or Families First Assistance? And so this lets us know a lot about our clients for data purposes, as well as when we put that into the computer, it will give us a data report that says this many clients that have been here between this time and this time are receiving food stamp benefits, have this amount of income, and so on and so forth. So that's why these things are important. So the next thing we're going to go over is the direct care team, or the direct care case management intakes. And what that is the intake packet for the direct care team, which Erin went over in our last training, but we want to go over it more in detail in this video. So the very first few pages of this direct care team packet, and there is I think 5 total pages of the direct care team packet portion, okay? And so in this is going to ask very specific questions about the client and their family. So what we often run into is that a mother, a person, a woman who comes in who is homeless is often not homeless alone. They either have a significant other, or they have children. They have children that maybe is in the system that they're trying to get back. And so in order for us to give them collaborative overall care, we have to look at a number of different factors and factor everything in order to get all around care. So that's why on the first page is asking for their information, their spouse or significant other's information, and their children's information. They're going to ask for an emergency contact, a referral resource, an agreement for participation. This is really important. A client needs, or a member needs to sign this, that they're opting into case management and they are okay with collaborative care. It's just like going to a doctor's office and saying, it's okay for you to share my information with this doctor or this specialist over here. It's the same sort of thing, but in a different setting. Okay, so they're going to go through all of these papers and fill them out. There's a financial assessment, there's veteran information, there's medications, there's mental health questions on here, substance abuse. All of those things are very important to the overall care of a person and what we can do to help. what we can do to move forward. So you want them basically to fill out every sheet of paper that's in that first 5 pages for sure. Now, the next page starts out with Outreach Care Assessment. That is the ARCH paperwork, the Appalachian Regional Coalition for Homelessness. And on here, they have to fill out, it's going to be a lot of repetitive information. And because it is a lot, government paperwork is often repetitive. We want them to fill out the same information. I'm often having to go back and refill out the same information because they haven't filled it out. So it would just be helpful if you as a volunteer would just kind of look through, and if it's repetitive information they haven't filled out, fill it in for them because they've answered it on the first few pages. But every bit of this has to be filled out, and it has to be signed where it says release of information on each page. So you can go through there and look. It's going to ask all kinds of different things, and then it's also asking in the Part 2 care assessment and homeless prevention pages more information about family. It wants to know, do they have family that's going to be living in their care? So that's the Direct Care Team Case Management Intake Packet. And that is the packet that is used if someone comes in and wishes to gain case management, which is collaborative care between a number of different agencies who work with homeless in our region. And we are very, very, very lucky and blessed to be able to be a part of this. And from the ground up, we have helped build this team as being part of it, and we want to keep this up and keep it going. So we want you guys to just look through this paperwork. I'm going to put some pictures up of the different paperwork as I'm talking, so you'll see that as I'm talking about how important this really is to our region and what we're doing. So there again, go through every page. If you're not sure about it, just go through and read. You can see what it's asking for. Often they're just running through it. They don't want to fill it out because nobody likes sitting down and filling out a bunch of paperwork. I mean, that's, So in addition to this Direct Care Team paperwork, we do have applications for housing units that are low income but are not within the KHRA or the Kingsport Housing Authority network. Okay, so Amy and I have access to that, and if a client is in need of filling out applications for other housing entities besides Kingsport Housing and Redevelopment Authority, we can help them do that. And we have a list of housing units that are, and when I say housing units, I mean they're apartment complexes that are privately owned, that are not within network of Kingsport Housing Authority, but they are low income. So a lot of times trash and water and lights are all included in one, and it is based upon a percentage of income. So we have access to all of those applications. Unfortunately, some of them are almost 10 pages long, and we don't want to keep a bunch of them printed out. But if you run up on a question about that, please let us know and we can print those out. Especially Amy. Amy is the housing navigator for the Direct Care Team, and she works very closely with the Direct Care Team as well on housing. And so she knows a lot of information about this that you can glean from as well. And she is your director of volunteers, and so please fall back on her if you have questions. So the next thing I want to go over is the counseling forms. So the first page of the forms for counseling have the confidentiality and release of liability agreement on the first page. Then the second page is the consent. This would be the same thing as the consent to treatment if you went to secular counseling, okay? And then the last page is faith-based counseling, and explains all of it. And it's a consent to evaluation and counseling. So all 3 pages, the first page of that faith-based counseling, informed consent, is basically telling them, what we do, what we can do legally, and how we are covered because we're doing this as a parishioner, a minister doing counseling, and that we cannot diagnose, we don't use the DSM, we can refer out if mental disorder is detected or something like that, and we feel like the person would benefit better from getting a mental health diagnosis, we can refer them for care. So next, the forms we are going to go over are the Philippians 4:19. Anybody know what Philippians 4:19 says? My God shall supply all of my needs according to his riches in glory. So that is what the Philippians 4:19 Perks program is all about. Our ladies' provision for things that is not included that they can purchase on food stamp program or anything like that. This is an earning program, so they can earn points by participating in the Philippians 4:19 program by attending classes and programs and different things in our area. So there's an earn points sheet. There's a guidelines for the Philippians 4:19, and then there is the shopping list. So I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go over the earn points sheet first. And we are going to add some things to this, but this is just to kind of go over the gist of what this page is about. So Bible-related programs. So that means anything, even Friday Fill-Up, anything that is to do with a biblical-related program, they can get 400 points for. So the reason why we did this and we didn't break it up into classes is because Oasis does not always keep the same classes over years, and so we needed something that just kind of incorporated every kind of class, because we do have new classes sometimes coming in as well. So to keep from having to update this sheet all the time, and the fact that if our ladies attend a Bible study outside of here that is not ours, if they can bring proof of that, we also give them points. The best way to do that was incorporate it in a larger way. So we finance, and so it goes down through there, and I'm getting ready to update these, the points, because we're going to add a case management piece to this, to where the ladies will be attending classes and the ladies will be attending meetings for case management, and if they show up to their meeting, we're going to get points for that. So I'm going to update this sheet, but I'm just kind of going over the gist of it. So like there's one for healthy eating, exercise, general health, or going to join a gym. Say you do any of those things outside of here, but you can bring me proof on letterhead, a letter, an email from a person who is legitimized at that place, and they can prove that was attended, then they get 500 points. And so that's a very generalized range, but we know which classes kind of fall into those, if that makes sense. So complete a certification. So if they go and they actually do the work to get a phlebotomy license or some kind of certification, we're going to give them points. They just need to bring us proof of it. So if that at all is explained on here, and I'm going to go in the computer and fix, I know that there are some things in there that's not been fixed, so we're going to go in and fix that into the computer and update this document. Okay, so the next thing I want to go over is the guidelines for perks. They have to participate in classes. Their name must appear on the class roll sheet, and I do look at those. So when they come to my office, I look to see who all's been attending classes, how well the class is attended, because my job is to make sure that our classes and programs are going, and that we are telling what we have going on, to create the calendar. I'm the director of everything as far as programs and classes, and so this helps me to understand who all is attending the class when I can look at the roll sheet. To gain points for church bulletins, you need to bring them in a week after attending the service. So if somebody comes up and they are bringing something that is not, it was 3 years ago, I'm not giving points for that. So make sure you're checking dates, you're looking for things, and all of that. But you can go down through there. That's what this sheet is for. And it's to pass out to them. Let them know what the points are. So say they do something and they're like, well, I don't understand that. That's what these sheets are for. Like, we had an incident where a lady bought in a bunch of canned food. And she was like, well, I want my points. And Amy was like, but we don't give points for that. And just because they think it's point worthy doesn't mean that they're going to get points for it. So we have to stick with our rules. We can't just go outside and be willy-nilly with things. So, all right, the next thing is Philippians 4:19 perks shopping list. I have updated this numerous times, and we will continue to have to update it. And I think most of you all are pretty privy to that. That's where the ladies mark what items they want, the number of the items, and we just need to make sure that we're checking points first. So as you can see at the top, the member's name, and then the volunteer gathering the items might be different than the volunteer who is entering the items. So we want to make sure that the volunteer gathering the items name is there, but then separately, the one who put it into the computer and took away the points, their initials need to be there at the top. So, and as you can see over to the side, I have added at the top, please check computer first to assess members' points before ordering. So whenever you go into and you have one of these sheets, you're going to put their total points that you see in the computer on that top line where it says total points. So say Mary has 500 points, you would put 500 points there, and that way the client knows how much points they have to spend. And then you're going to do the math and put the total amount that's being deducted in the total used. And then you're going to let them know what their total remaining is. And then the volunteer who did this math is going to put their initials there. And the reason for doing that is to make sure that that accountability is there, that you're actually checking ahead to see what their points are before you let them spend the points, because we've had clients be in the negative and been given points. Now, this is different for Hope House points. So if Victoria from Hope House has sent me an email saying Sky or somebody's, and I'm just using Sky as an example because she's normally the person that does that, that means she's attended classes and programs at Hope House, and they're going to be transferring points to us. She doesn't know when she's arrived if Victoria has already sent that email to me or not. So we just need to kind of be in communication with Hope House. Do pick up the phone if you don't know, if you've never received an email from me, if I haven't told you about it, maybe I haven't received it yet. You have the authority to pick up the phone and call Hope House and call Victoria and say, hey, Sky is over here and she's going to be getting, she's filled out this sheet to get things with points, but we've not received her transfer of points. Can you please email over that or give us verbal notification that you're going to send it and how much it is so that we can make sure that Sky has her points in. And so I will make sure that that is put at the front desk so that everyone knows what the Hope House number is. So that concludes the perks portion of our documents. The next thing I want to go over is the Oasis of Kingsport computer and electronics use policy. So the Oasis of Kingsport Women's Ministry allows members to check out electronic devices such as computers. Electronics at the Oasis is limited to use for job applications, schoolwork, and email. Please note that your computer use is being monitored for your safety and others. History and cookies have been set up to be recorded even when you perform a delete function. Please sign out of important sites that contain your personal information such as email, bank sites, and shut down computers when finished. Please note the more rules and conditions for use below. Okay? Must sign in laptops, headphones, and everything. You're going to sign them in and sign them out. And we're going to have a sheet down there. We always had one at Sullivan Street, and somehow this kind of got removed. So we're going to make sure that they sign a computer out and they sign it back in. We're dealing with laptops here, so we want to be careful that laptops are not going out the door, okay? May only retrieve electronic devices by asking a volunteer for assistance. Are not allowed to print without assistance. Lengthy printing is prohibited. And I would just say to you, please just don't let them print. I mean, we have a lady that is always wanting to print like 10, 15 documents. We just can't do that. It costs us money to do that. Are not allowed to use computers for social media, gaming, or visits to pornographic sites. We have to put that in there, and the library has the same exact guidelines, so we just kind of went by theirs. Obviously, it's been done at the library, unfortunately. So, and they are responsible for any damages that occur to the computers due to negligence. And they need to have food and drink away from the computers that are owned by us, because if they spill it in the computer, then the computer's gone, right? So, and they need to sign their electronics back into the receptionist and put a checkout time when completed. And children are not permitted to use Oasis computers. Max checkout time for an electronic device is 2 hours. So they got to sign off on that, and it's just saying that they read and understand the rules and regulations so that if something does happen, they are responsible. So that's what the electronics policy is, and the sign-in, sign-out sheet. And that will be down at the reception desk. Okay. So the next thing we want to go over, which I think I probably should have went over this with the direct care team paperwork, is the Isaiah 55 homeless letter policy and reference form. So this particular thing has our homeless letter policy on it, but is asking for a paper trail. And it legitimizes that letter for the client. So basically it's saying, or for the member, it's saying that we will issue them a reference letter that says that they are homeless, that we can vouch for that, and that we've asked for references that can vouch for that, so that it can legitimize this reference letter for them to take to other agencies or to housing. Housing actually asks for these, and in order for them to be bumped up on the list or to get extra help, we have to have this particular document, okay? So what they're going to do is they're going to sign off that they have understood this policy and the date, and then they're going to provide us some references. A lot of times they don't have a support system, and so they don't have anybody to put on this list, and we say put any agencies that you are currently working with that can vouch for your homelessness. For instance, if they put on there they have been dealing with Salvation Army, they've been staying there, then they can put Salvation Army and we can put the email and the phone number, because we already know that. So most likely they're going to say, well, I don't know the phone number, but I stayed there last night. Or I got a meal at Shades of Grace. Okay, Shades of Grace can probably vouch for that, so they're going to put Shades of Grace on there. That's fine if they don't put the the email or the phone number, if that makes sense. Okay. The agency referral form. So we have formal referrals that we can make to other agencies for clients or members. Okay, so we call them, we're going to call them members, but they are technically still clients of ours. And we had changed that last year or the year before to kind of say members, because we want people to feel not that we're, we want them to feel included, not that we're greater than them or something like that. And so there was a consultant who said that, and I know before we had called them guest, and I just like the name member best. So that we kind of have taken that on. So it's hard for me to kind of go back and forth, but really we're serving them. They are clients, but they're part of us. They're members. So that's how come I keep going back and forth. And I do apologize if that's confusing. Okay, so agency referral form. So this form is basically so that we can also keep up with the referrals that we're giving. Mostly Amy and I will be using this. But if you have someone who is needing help and you're doing a formal referral to another agency, say for instance, Families Free, okay? So you have a client who's come in and they desperately need help with getting off drugs, and they are willing to do some outpatient care. You're going to send them to Families Free, okay? So you're going to write on here the client's name, the date of the referral, and all of that. And in the note, the reason for the referral or the notes section, you're going to put down here that you called and you had the online or the over the phone conversation. You let the client talk to them, so on and so forth, so that we can keep up with what we're doing. Because we want to keep up with how we are serving our clients and what we're doing for them, if that makes sense. So that's what the agency referral form is. Now, the next thing I want to go over is incident reports. So an incident report basically encompasses information if there is a major incident that happens. A volunteer may sign or fill out one of these incident reports. So say you are on a shift and something happens, somebody has a medical emergency. You have to call 911 because this person is seizing out, and this has happened before, and they've been in a consistent seizure for probably a minute, and you're like, okay, that lasted a long time. This is a medical emergency. You pick up the phone, you call 911, and as they are going out with the client or with the member, you're going to talk to them and ask them, can they give you a report number? And you're going to include all of that information in this form. So you're going to put your name as the person that reported it, the day that was reported, what your role is, so you would say volunteer, and an incident number. We will give it an incident number so you don't have to put that. So, because we know how many incidents there are, and that's probably something you wouldn't know. So, anyways, me or Amy will put that, and then incident information. So you're gonna give a description. You're gonna put who all was involved, their names, what their roles are. So if they're a member or if it was another volunteer, and all of that. If it is involving the police, you're going to ask for the police report number and the reporting officer. Where it says precinct, you will put in KPD or Kingsport Police Department, if that makes sense. And then the supervisor will sign it, so that means Amy will sign it and date it, or either myself, okay? So that's what those are. And let's see. So we're going to talk about the LIHEAP forms. Everybody's always wondering, like, what is this packet with the little envelope, and why is this here, and all that. So this is a Upper East Tennessee Human Development Agency program. It is a government subsidized program through a grant to help people who need help with a lot of different things, actually, but it's mostly like if they need help with rent, they need help with lights consistently, they can get on a program that will help pay their electricity on and on to subsidize their income. And so there's lots of good things that Upper East does. So they'll go on and fill out this application and send it in for help with lights, energy assistance, and also rent and different things like that. So that's what they are. I encourage you, you can go on the website, Upper East Tennessee Human Development Agency, Google them. You can find out all the things they do. There's a large list actually of things that they do. But our clients will fill out this information, and this is, you may give them, we have stamps downstairs in the desk. Usually, if they do this and they need a stamp and there's not one down there, holler at one of us, okay? But they can take this home, fill it out, put it in the mailbox with postage that we'll give them, and that will get them the help they need, okay? All right, so these forms right here are forms, the colored forms that are down there. Okay, and this is application for security card, Social Security, application for Tennessee driver's license or ID, if they can't get a driver's license, it's the same form, and also the health records. So this is for the Tennessee driver or birth certificate only is the yellow sheet, okay? They're supposed to fill this out if they are going on Tuesday with Bobby, who is a representative of the Kingsport Housing Authority outreach. He's on the outreach team for KHRA. It is a grant-funded program to help homeless or those in need obtain these items under grants. So you do not have to live in KHRA to receive this program, okay? Most of what the outreach team who works for KHRA does is work with the homeless. And so it's hard for people to understand when I say KHRA, they're like, what? That's housing. They have a lot more programs actually than what you realize that are grant-funded programs by the government. And some of them are like the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, which helps people, ladies who have children get jobs and go on into school and different things like that. So they have different grants. There's a lot more that KHRA does. And him going to get birth certificates and social security cards and all that is part of that grant. The ladies do not have to pay for those things. They are paid for through that grant as well as the gas money to get there. So there again, the ladies do not have to pay to get a driver's license, a birth certificate, a social security card. They don't have to pay, okay? They just need to show up on Tuesday before 9 o'clock and fill out this paperwork and have it ready for when the white van comes to pick them up. Okay? So the next thing I want to go over is the playground waiver. This is something new that you haven't seen before because we just now come up with it. It's something our insurance has said that we have to have for participants to play on the playground. And so we have had to make a waiver, a release waiver, and indemnity agreement. Excuse me, I can't talk. And this basically absolves Oasis in case something was to happen on the playground with a child, that we are not responsible. Okay, and then there's also a new form for volunteers who are volunteering and have to have children on site, which says that Oasis is not responsible if something happens to your child. And we have to have that for insurance purposes. And so that's what that is. So I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, besides the volunteer forms, that is all the all the forms that we are going to go over today, because that is the everyday use. Now, if it is a volunteer form, volunteers will not be recruiting or giving the application out to other volunteers without Amy knowing. So any conversation about volunteering or recruiting a volunteer will go through your Director of Volunteers, Amy Renee. And so all of that paperwork is within her possession, and the training as well. She will be in charge of all of that. So if you have a person that is wanting to volunteer, call Amy, get her. If she's not down in the reception area or in the other building, she'll either be in her office or maybe she might be out. Give her a ring and tell her, hey, there's a person down here who is interested in volunteering, and she will come down and meet with them, give them a tour, tell them what is to be expected, and all of that. So that's why those documents are no longer downstairs. Okay. So there are a few other documents that may be added, and as we do add new documents that we have to have, maybe for insurance purposes or something like that, they will be added in a separate video. But this is this is the document training video number 1. So this is all the basic documents that we use for everyday use. Thank you so much for your service at the Oasis of Kingsport. You are loved and you are appreciated.